Something is wrong in Washington, and I don't mean the usual political noise. I mean something deeper. Something feels like it's structurally breaking. The system itself, you see, is collapsing, and it's happening in real time. What you're watching isn't just dysfunction. It's the system finally revealing its true, brutal nature when it's put under extreme pressure. I mean, just look at MAGA Mike Johnson. He's panicking. But it's not because of the Democrats. It's because his own side has defected, and that's left him completely and utterly exposed. And think about the timing of this move. It happened in the dead of night, at 2 a.m. Senator John Kennedy and a handful of other Republicans sided with the Democrats. They pushed through a bill to fund only the TSA, basically abandoning ICE and the Border Patrol. It was a quiet but absolutely devastating betrayal. And then poof, they were gone. The Senate just vanished. John Thune walked away. Ted Cruz got on a plane. Washington emptied out like a city right before a hurricane hits. They didn't even stay to negotiate. They just left. So, into this power vacuum, who steps forward? Donald Trump. All of a sudden, he's claiming he can fund the TSA all by himself, using executive power and, get this, money that was just sitting there the whole time. Money he could have used weeks ago. So the real question is, why now? This isn't about confusion. This is about timing. And timing in politics is never random. It is always about leverage. So what is really happening here? To understand that, we need a completely different kind of map. And that map comes from the power theorist John Mearsheimer. Now, his work is usually about great powers. Nations competing on the world stage. But his ideas right now are pretty much the only way to understand what's happening inside America. His theory isn't about what leaders say they want. It's about what they are forced to do when the system itself becomes the arena for a raw power struggle. Here is Mearsheimer's core idea, and it's stark. When the rules and the institutions that we all rely on start to weaken, cooperation ends, raw competition begins, and the fight, well, it's not for solutions anymore, it's for dominance. This pattern isn't new. It has stages. History has seen this play out before, and every single time, the people who thought it was just politics as usual were dangerously wrong. Let's jump into our first case study and see exactly how this builds. Do you remember 2013? It looked like a fight over the Affordable Care Act, but honestly, that was just the excuse. The government shut down, but the real story wasn't Republicans versus Democrats. It was the internal rebellion happening inside the Republican Party. Their leadership lost control. So the real lesson wasn't about policy, it was about power. A dangerous new principle was established. Creating a crisis gives you leverage that following the rules never will. It proved that chaos works. So yeah, on the surface, it just looked like a policy dispute. But the reality? It was a test. It was a test to see if chaos could be weaponized, if it could be used as a strategic tool to break the system's normal rules. And the answer was yes. And once that door is opened, it never fully closes. Now, for an even more dangerous example, let's go to Moscow, 2008. Here, the system didn't just bend, it completely broke. The rules of power were rewritten, not in law, but in practice. On the surface, it looked like a perfectly constitutional transition. Vladimir Putin respected the term limits, he stepped down, and Dmitry Medvedev became president. The rules were followed, but the reality was a complete rearrangement of power. Putin became prime minister, and the real authority just moved with him. The institutions, the presidency, the constitution, they were still standing, but they were hollow shells. Their power had been drained. And that's far more dangerous than just openly breaking a rule. It's like a silent coup. You don't even feel like it's a collapse until it's already over. Okay, so let's bring this framework back to today. These historical patterns, using crisis as leverage and making rules irrelevant, are exactly what's unfolding right now. It's a playbook. So here's the playbook. Let's break it down. Step 1, you create the crisis. That was the funding standoff. Step 2, you delay the solution. The Senate vanishes, negotiations stall. And then step 3, you force the outcome. Donald Trump steps into that vacuum with executive action, bypassing the broken system entirely. This isn't random, it's a sequence. And you can see the fractures just spreading. The House is turning on the Senate. You've got Mark Harris calling his Republican colleagues a disgrace. Chip Roy is screaming betrayal. This isn't negotiation, this is an internal collapse. And meanwhile, Chuck Schumer isn't panicking. He's just strategically waiting, turning procedure itself into a weapon. And this table here clarifies the real game. If you forget their stated goals, full funding, border security, procedure, and you look only at their strategic actions, the pattern is crystal clear. MAGA Mike Johnson is panicking. He's losing control. Chuck Schumer is weaponizing procedure, holding the line. And Donald Trump, he's just bypassing the entire argument. This isn't about funding agencies anymore. It's about who controls the rules.
And this brings us to the most dangerous phase. Where does this go from here? We're entering a period where the outcome is no longer predictable, and the system may be approaching a point of no return. History suggests there are 3 possible paths forward, and each one is more dangerous than the last. First is normalization, where this crisis behavior just becomes routine. Shutdown threats and executive workarounds are the new normal. Second, concentration, where power flows to whoever can act the fastest, ignoring the rules. And the third path? A complete loss of control, where actions start to trigger unpredictable reactions, and the system stops stabilizing itself and just spirals. And this is the crucial point to understand right now. The single biggest mistake is to assume someone is in control, that there is a master plan. History shows the exact opposite. In these moments, leaders aren't controlling events, they are reacting to them. And when power becomes purely reactive, that's when mistakes multiply. So based on these patterns, the question is no longer if this will escalate. History is very clear on that. It will. Cycles of power competition don't just stop halfway, they complete themselves.
Which leaves us here. Are we watching another temporary crisis, another political drama that's going to fade away? Or are we witnessing the early stage of something the system simply cannot reverse?